Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week on the Cyclekart I want to sort the front end out. There's a few problems up there. See you in a minute. Now, although the front end's all put together and seemingly in the right sort of order, there are a couple of areas that I keep looking back at and thinking aren't right. One is the steering is a bit sloppy at the front, and the second is that I'm still not happy that it doesn't need a panard rod on the front to stop the axle going from side to side, because you've got an axle effectively hung on two hangers like that, which can do that on its hangers, and that means the whole of the front end can move about. So we'll go in the garage and have a look and see what we can do about both of those little problems. Now, I mentioned the other day there are a couple of things I want to get sorted on the front end of the cart, and then that buttons the whole thing up. And one of them was reinforced by one of the guys on the Cyclekart forum the other day. He was doing an Austin 7, I think he was doing an Ulster replica, and he also had fitted a panard rod on his front axle, so that sort of reinforces my belief that what I'm doing at the moment is probably wrong. So I want to get a panard rod in on the front axle. I want to get this sloppiness out, and I was worrying about bearings and all sorts of things on that, but in fact it's not actually doing anything other than supporting this end of the steering column. So there's not actually any movement in it once it's locked in place, so I just want to make a plate to fit in there. And then at the other end, at this end, I want to get this secured better, and a bearing built into that there. So I'm going to start off with that, and I'm just going to measure that angle because I've got to actually drill a hole through the aluminium plate slightly on the wonk, I think, to get that angle, and then it'll make it a nice snug fit. 99.4 degrees, so that's going to mean it's a 10 degree to the vertical. Now I've just checked the offcut of wood that I've got, that I use as a block to drill on, is got an angle of about 9.3, and I was at 9.9 I think. So I think I'm going to go with that as the thing to place the aluminium on. If I can just tack it onto that, and then I can drill down through it, get my hole in, and then shape the rest of it up with the bandsaw afterwards. Right, that's taken all the slop out the front end. I've still got this to worry about, but that has dealt with that, no problem. I'm just going to tighten the top of this up and see how that does, but then it'll just be the little bush. But I think even tightening up those nuts will also help. So we'll do that first and see where, if we're nearly the way all there. Then I think we're about a third of the way there at the moment. I hope that'll be 2/3 of the way, and that'll finish it. See, now the only slop is there. The rest of it's sorted. Good. Now to make the bush. Now on the column end of the bracket I was going to do a nylon bush, but I've just been searching in amongst the copper pipes that I've got, and I found a piece of 22mm, I think it is, copper pipe, which is pretty much exactly the right shape to go inside the bracket, and the inside diameter of that is the same as the steering column. So I'm going to just solder on either side of that piece I've cut off a piece of the of a connector, so that will leave me a location that will stop it slipping out, if you like, with that on either side of it, and then I can cut it in half and slide it around. The trouble is I can't slide anything onto that shaft because it's welded at both ends, so I need to cut the bush in half, put it on, then I can clamp these round either side of it and it should all hold in position. So that's the next task. We'll cut 2 slices off this and solder them on to that, and then cut it in half. Do. If I solder that up now, that will stop it sliding out because it's retained either side by the brackets. It should be a clamp tight fit anyway, but yeah, solder that up, cut it in 2 and we're away. Up and ready to go. That drops in there and should, I hesitate to, yes, that should clamp in there nicely and give me the right size centre. So we just cut that in half now and we'll be done. Right, that's the bush fitted. The whole thing is now much more solid without any real slop, so I'm happy with that. That solved all of that front end problems really of sloppiness. So the only thing I've got to do now is put the panard rod in. I've ordered a new bolt for that side and I've just got to sort out where to take it back to. I'm tempted to keep it level and take it back to this tower here, which is pretty solid. I mean, the whole of the cart is sitting on that. I'm hoping my over-engineering in the first place will be enough to allow it to take the lateral forces from the axle. We will see, time will tell. If not, it'll have to go down to the chassis, but panard rod mechanism. I've got a new bolt on order which is longer than this one and will stick out further, and so I'm going to put one of the rod ends through that at 10mm. That'll go into there, and I've got another rod end there which I'm going to bolt down to the one of the mounting holes there that go right through the chassis rail there. Now the problem with that was it was an 8mm bolt going through, but I've used another of the little spacing washers that I got for the front arms of the steering here that just bush it down from 10 to 8, I mean. So that'll go into there, and I don't know whether I'll need anything underneath it yet in the way of a support to lift it up a bit, but effectively that'll go right through there. So that should stop the whole of this swinging about on the front end that I've been worried about all along. And as I say, clamping up that front suspension there to me is not the sensible answer, because it's bound to just either shake loose or become worn. Right, that's got the bar in as far as I can. I haven't got the right bolt in there at the moment, so the front arm on that side of the axle isn't connected up yet, but it'll do what it's meant to do. I can already see that now, because I've still got the up and down of the suspension, but I've lost the lateral slop. Now whenever the chassis moves, the axle moves with it, so that was well worth putting in. Very pleased with the result on that. As I say, it may have compromised the header tank arrangement, but that was cosmetic. This is actual running. Now the last missing component of the front suspension has arrived this morning. That's the replacement bolt for this one here that will take, I hope, the panard rod. It's got the shouldered bolt through with a nut on the end. So we'll knock out first of all the old bolt and see if we need to do much in the way of altering this. Washer on the front, and that's going into a tube in the axle, like a crushed tube. Oh, I'll put the panard rod in first, didn't I? I think perhaps a washer either side of the panard rod might be in order. Wish I hadn't greased it all up now. That's it. Let's go in. I thought it would be. We've got there in the end. That's got the bar in. Needs a bit of tightening up yet, which we can do. I've had to strip all the front radius arms out to get that axle to align back to where it should be, but we're just about there now. So I've now got a front end that, apart from tightening up all the nuts and bolts and making sure they've got shake proofs in the appropriate places and or wired or whatever else, and setting track, toe in and everything. At the moment it's very knock-kneed, but we can set all of that now. But apart from that, I've got a front end I'm happy with. I've got this torsion bar in, which has taken all of the shake out of the front end, slopping from side to side, and although it's been a bit of a struggle, it was well worth the effort, I think. Right, that's, I think, resolved both of the issues I had with the front. The steering is now much tighter at the front, and there's certainly no movement side to side when you try and push on the body of the cart. It doesn't tend to move on the axle, so I think long term it will be a good fix. It's worth sort of stepping back and stopping the build, if you like. When you've got something like this, it's a bit of a problem, just go back in, sort it out, and then move on. So hopefully next week we'll be doing something different on the Cyclekart. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye.